Greetings, everyone. I'm Sharon Walpole. I'm from Career Map, and welcome to National Graduate Week. We have this session here with Roots into Rail with some exciting graduates that have joined us who are going to share some of their experiences and learn more about the different opportunities and routes into rail. Some of the people that will be joining with us today, who's not been able to get in yet, but I'm sure will join us shortly, is Neil Robertson, who's the CEO of the National Skills Academy for Rail. We also have our graduates. If you guys can give a little wave when I say your name. We've got Brooke, who's the HR manager from Amy. We have Emily, who is the, and I've got this right now, Emily, QHSE graduate with Network Rail. We've got Tom, who is our graduate with, assistant project manager at Voca Rail, and Shannon, who is the graduate at HS2. And I believe we have Neil joining us in the room. Hello, Neil. If you're there, if you could put your camera and your microphone on, you'll see them at the top of your screen. The camera's not your normal icon, it's the little circle one. Great. Hooray. And you've got your camera on as well, Neil? How about saying hello so we can hear you? Right, well, while we're still sorting out those technical difficulties, we'll have a little bit of a move on. Before we begin, I'd just like to remind everybody with this attending this event that it is live, as you can tell, but it is being recorded. And so if you would like to watch it again or share the recording, you'll be available on, there he is, hello there, Neil. Will be available on nationalgraduateweek.co.uk. And for everyone watching, this is Neil Robertson. Hello, Neil, CEO of the National Skills Academy for Rail, and he will be our host for today. You'll see on the right a chat box with your screen. Please drop any questions you have during the presentation, and I will be gathering these up for the Q&A following all the presentations later. If you've got any issues with the chat, feel free to email your questions to info@careermap.co.uk, and we'll make sure to pull all those questions together for the Q&A later. So, without further ado, and all the team is here, we'll get started, and I'll hand you over to Neil on the panel.
My name's Mary Stewart. I work for NSAR, and I am a project coordinator working on the Routes into Rail project. So Routes into Rail, it was born out of the Rail Sector Deal Delivery Plan. There's a stream in that plan called Skills and People, and NSAR is responsible for carrying out the project with Skills and People. What we are doing in Routes into Rail is trying to change public perception. We know that a lot of people think that it's all high-vis jackets and manual labour and dirty work, and we're here to say that it's not, that there's an entire workforce behind that that we need, that keeps the trains running. We do know from our data that the workforce that we have today is an ageing workforce. So the majority are over the age of 50, and they're mainly male as well. So we do know that we have some work to do in equality and diversity. We are trying to attract more females to the industry, and we do know, because of the ageing workforce, that about 9% of the workforce is expected to retire in the next 5 years. That equates to about 23,000 people. So we're going to have a massive skills shortage. If you wouldn't mind. Thank you. So these is just a quick snapshot of the current job roles that we're expected to have a shortage in by 2025. Some of these are maintenance and engineering roles, but we do need customer service, drivers, finance, HR. So we know that we need these people, and we are appealing for a talented, diverse workforce to come into the industry to upskill and take over these roles. So as I said, the data shows that only about 17% of the industry is female at the moment. That's a lot more than it was about 5 years ago when it was 8%. So we are moving in the right direction. We just need to do some more work. Some of the roles that are being performed by women at the moment are drivers, electrical engineers, and senior business managers, and HR as well. But we do need females in all roles. So the benefits of rail, decarbonisation. I believe that travelling by train is only 2% emissions compared to driving by car. So it's greener. We're also investing into the rail industry to make it smarter. We're doing a massive project to modernise the railway, so we need data analysts, computer scientists, and all these new roles. They pay well, so the salary, because they're high in demand, the salary is there. And working in rail, you've got the opportunity to work internationally and nationally. Thank you.
My name's Tom Roundhill, and I'm a graduate assistant project manager at Volker Rail, as already mentioned. So essentially for this, I was asked to pull together a slide, a bit about me, a bit about the qualifications that I've got, outside of my work and through my work, why I chose rail, and also a bit about Volker Rail, which is the company I obviously work for. So there you go. You can see me, lovely mugshot of me in the corner there, and bit of background. So the degree I did was in BSc Human Geography from the University of Reading. So completely different and outside of the rail industry, which one just goes to show you that you don't need a rail specific degree to get into the industry. Very much if you've got transferable skills from any degree or course you're doing, whether it's university or not, they're really highly valued in the rail industry. A bit about the qualifications that have helped me in my role in project management. So essentially just a bit of background. So I work for Volker Rail under the signalling and telecoms framework, and our main client is Network Rail. So I currently manage four live projects, and these qualifications that have helped me are the APM project management qualification, the PMQ, as well as a level 4 apprenticeship, and these are really widely kind of known courses, and go a long way in supporting my role, as well as any other kind of project management function that I was to go into in the future, for example. I've also had some training on CDM, and for anyone who doesn't know what CDM is, it's the construction design management regulation set out by the government, which basically governs all that I do in my project management role and that we do as a principal contractor for Network Rail. So a bit on why rail, I guess. Rail isn't something that I ever thought I would end up in, really. It just basically the opportunity arose and I took it. It's not something I really thought of doing until I saw the advert. But rail is an incredibly structured environment, and really process driven. So in my role as a project manager, or you can be in any role, that process driven environment, one, is incredibly useful for my personal development, and two, if you were to take it to any other industry at all, it's hugely valued, because rail is always orientated around safety and process, for example. So that is valued by other industries, really, and you'll realise that when you join rail, there's acronym after acronym, and it's almost like its own world. But after a while, getting used to it, it's also an incredibly interesting and also important kind of area to be in as well. So a bit more about my role at Volker Rail, and just a few points on this. I know it sounds absolutely incredibly cliche to say, but no day is the same in my job. I can be dealing with multiple things a day, and each day and week are different. So just a few examples I've jotted down here. I can be on site visits with the client or our subcontractors. I'm essentially, as project manager for schemes, responsible for the management of a program and a budget, liaising closely with the client. I'm chairing project team meetings, and I'm managing all of the program deliverables that we are contracted to deliver under certain contracts. I'm also there to drive project delivery. If there's delays or issues, as PM for jobs, I have to be there to drive it forward and get over those. That kind of leads into managing risk. I'll have meetings with the client, meetings with the team, how we can, avoid risks, exploit opportunities, and also, obviously the internal and external reporting to clients and senior management as well. Excuse me. So next, just the opportunities that are open to me as a graduate. So, as I mentioned previously, I've been enrolled on the APM course, which is a 14-month apprenticeship that Volker have paid for me to do. So that's been fantastic, and I'm coming to the end of that. I've also been put through the IOSH Managing Safely, which is essentially how, as a principal contractor, we manage works in a safe way, going into the Health and Safety at Work Act. I promise it is more interesting than it sounds. There's loads of volunteering, especially with Volker. I did the London Marathon a couple of weeks ago in support of railway children, and supported by Volker. And you get so much support from colleagues and the whole business and clients, subcontractors, the like. Being a graduate, you're afforded the opportunity to maybe ask stupid questions all the time, and because you're a graduate, you're learning. So any questions you can ask, go for it, basically. A couple of details on my grad scheme. So it's a 2-year structured graduate scheme. And I actually got to choose my business unit, which was really exciting. And essentially I had people from around the business. I was speaking to them, and I got to choose. Obviously took advice and based that decision off what would be best for my development and what would be the most interesting for me, I think. And also in rail, there's such a clear pipeline for development. So as mentioned, I'm a graduate assistant project manager at the moment. But after I finish my apprenticeship, which is coming up, I'm going to be promoted to assistant project manager. And you just go up the chain, and it's really, really good pipeline for development there in the whole rail industry, but also especially in Volker Rail. So finally, I guess how Volker Rail supported me. So my line manager, my boss, also acts as my mentor. Will assist with anything, answer numerous stupid or not questions, assist where needed. So that's been incredibly valuable to me, and I think I've come a long way in the last 15 months since joining the grad scheme. Frequent feedback, I'm sure with many companies you have a kind of annual or 6 monthly performance review, and constant feedback, constructive areas I can improve on, and then finally, I guess the development opportunities, and whether it's courses, whether you work in management like me, obviously I'm a graduate project manager, or you work on the ground in the more ops side, operating heavy machinery, working on site, you're an engineer, construction manager. There's so much progression in either of those kind of areas. So super exciting industry to work in, and as I said, never thought I'd end up in it, but very glad I have, and onwards and upwards pretty much.
I'll start by introducing myself. My name's Brooke Humphreys. I'm an HR manager for Amy Rail, and I was previously on the Amy Business Graduate Programme, working in the Consulting and Rail Business Unit. So a little bit about my background. I did A-levels in biology, chemistry and business management. I then went on to do a first year of a business management degree at quite a large university. Initially, I didn't actually enjoy university. I didn't find that it was for me. And so I dropped out at the start of my second year. But after a gap year of working full-time in the construction industry, I then went back to university to complete my degree doing an HR specialism, so human resources specialism. After I graduated in 2018, I joined Amy as a business graduate working in the consulting and rail, and my first rotation was in rail, and I enjoyed it so much that I essentially never left. So never in a million years anticipated that I'd work up in the rail industry. I found that it was a really fascinating place to work, very historical, lots of technical elements, a lot of acronyms as well, as Tom mentioned earlier, but a really great space to work in and a lot of interesting experiences to have. So in terms of qualifications, after my degree, that was part of the Chartered Institute of Personnel and Development. That was level 5 accredited. So for those of you who are looking at engineering qualifications, this is the equivalent of similar to the iEng engineering, but in the HR specialism. And then as part of my graduate programme, one of the benefits of working for Amy is you get a fully funded professional qualification as part of the scheme. And so I undertook a chartered management qualification, doing a level 5 leadership and management programme via the apprenticeship levy, which was a 13-month programme where there was one-to-one coaching and development sessions as part of that, which developed some of my managerial skills, communication, etc., to then be able to progress my career. I'm now that I've completed the programme, being sponsored by Amy, working towards a master's degree in strategic people management. And that's a course that's ongoing where my people manager gives me some time to work on that qualification, supports me in that development of that course. And at the end of that programme, hopefully I'll achieve a master's degree in HR as well. A little bit about my role on a day-to-day basis. So within HR, typically you're talking about building organisational capability based on our people. So very much supporting key business priorities. There's a bit of a stigma around HR that quite often it's tea and a bit of a chat, but actually there's a lot more to it than that. Hi, Mina, I can see there's a message in the chat there. Okay, I'll carry on.
We'll gather up any questions and things and share them at the end.
Great, thank you. Other elements of my role include talent development and resourcing. So we know that, I think this forms part of the wider presentation, but we know that there's a skills shortage in rail. We know that we're going to need a lot more people within the industry. So part of my role is about building that capability, making sure that we're encouraging people to work in the sector and to make sure we've got skills that are fit for the future. Looking at data, particularly with the developments in technology recently, trying to drive those key performance indicators within the organisation, particularly around the people aspect. Supporting social value and diversity and inclusion activities, and maintaining employee relations, which is mostly working closely with our trade unions. So we recognise 2 trade unions within Amy, and we have collective bargaining arrangements whereby a lot of our employees are covered by these trade union recognition agreements, which means that some of their terms and conditions are protected. You have some enhancements that you wouldn't necessarily get in other sectors, which can be a real benefit of working in the industry. I guess as well, just a little bit on the Amy graduate scheme as a whole. So there's a lot of benefits by doing a graduate scheme. It's not for everybody. Some people prefer to go into entry-level roles. However, I found that by being part of a graduate scheme, you typically get a far more structured training. So within Amy, we have at least 4 dedicated graduate training days, but there's also additional opportunities for training and development, including the fully funded professional qualification. There's a number of other benefits that you typically get with many private sector and some public sector organisations as well. And there's a real emphasis on well-being as well. So it's a really great opportunity. And as being part of a graduate network, typically you'll find that you're assigned to a buddy or a mentor, sometimes both, who will be able to support that development and act as a bit of a touch point for you. So if you are thinking about going into the rail industry and the rail sector, a graduate scheme might be a great way to develop those skills, but still have a protected environment where you can learn and develop yourself and make sure that you're learning about the industry with that opportunity to progress at the end of the programme. So I think that's about it from me, but thank you very much for having me.
So much like all the other graduates, I've been asked to come here today to just speak to you a little bit about my experience as a graduate at HS2 so far. So just a little bit of background on me, I'm Shannon Wheeler. I graduated from Aston University in 2020 with an undergraduate degree in Business and International Relations. I'm now currently studying a part-time master's degree again at Aston University, and this time it's in Business and Management, and I'm due to graduate in 2022, which is at the same time that my graduate programme here at HS2 will conclude as well. And the programme that I'm on at the moment is the 2-year rotational programme as a technical land and property graduate. So just a few details of the scheme. So as I mentioned, it's a 2-year rotational programme. So during these 2 years, I'll do 4 rotations, rotational programme as a technical land and property graduate. So just a few details of the scheme. So as I mentioned, it's a 2-year. I don't know what's happening. I can hear myself what I was saying a minute ago. I don't know what's going on. I'm having a few technical difficulties. So
I know you're sounding okay. There's just a couple of minutes where you get that little bit of a feedback. So when you hear the feedback, just pause for a second and then start speaking again.
Okay, perfect. So trying to remember where I am now. So yeah, I'll do 4 rotations. They're 6 months long each. And the first rotation that you have, you don't actually get to choose, obviously, because you're just landed in the business. So my first rotation was in the acquisition operations team. I then, after the 6 months in that team, I moved over to the business delivery and development team, and I worked in the business management function in that area. And I'm just about now to go on to my next rotation. I liked the business delivery and development team that much that actually I've decided to stay there, but now I'm going over into the change management area, and so I'll be there for the next 6 months. So that is actually due to start next week, so I'm really looking forward to that. And some of the daily activities that I've been involved in, they really have depended on where I am in the business. So some examples so far include creating and implementing new payment processes. So this is just looking at our internal payment processes, tightening them up. How can we make them more efficient, and how can we make sure that we're paying our claimants on time and, if we can, a lot quicker, just to keep them happy. Then also I've worked on improving the way of which EDI cases have been managed. So that's involved a lot of talking to our legal and EDI teams, looking at the processes that we have currently, thinking about how we can get more of our teams involved in actually thinking about the different EDI cases, and ensuring that as a company we are doing the right thing at the right time, and treating people fairly as they should be. And then also I've worked in recruitment planning and forecasting. So this has just sometimes included looking at the vacancies that we have in the organisation. If someone hands in their notice, we need to think about how soon we may need to fill that role. On average, it takes about 3 months from start to finish. So that will include writing the job descriptions, creating the advertisements, pulling people in for interview, and then actually onboarding successful candidates. So that can take quite some time actually. And so then that's where we have to think about the workload that we've got, what we need to deliver on the programme during that time, and actually think about maybe we might need to bring in some temporary resources, and we need to start getting a forward look at any changes that are going to happen in the team and whether we need more staff just to deliver on the programme. So that's all about having the forward look and sort of always being one step ahead where you can. And then I've also worked on workforce development most recently. So this has involved putting together a technical competency framework, and this is just sort of a tool to aid development conversations rather than to measure people's progress. And this is just to ensure that here at HS2, especially in the land and property team, that we're able to actually like line manager can sit down with their delegates and actually think about where their delegates want to be, what skills they need to improve to get there, what are the next steps, and to just really help put some career progression plans in place for them. And so far I've had many opportunities and achievements to date. So I'd say one of the achievements, well, a few of them actually, have been related to the volunteering opportunities that I've been able to get involved in. So there's a few different ones, and the HS2 have actually put them all to me and made me aware of them. So the first one is one that I'm currently still involved in now, which is with an organisation called Business in the Community. And this is a programme that sort of you do 6 one-hour sessions, and you are paired with someone who has been negatively impacted by coronavirus in terms of work, and they claim universal credit. And so I've been basically a mentor for this person for the past few months, and that's really helped me develop my own personal skills as well as actually help this individual develop. So I've really enjoyed that. It's been a really sort of like a mutually beneficial experience. I've then also been involved in our virtual work experience program. So we had a week where we would have school leavers actually come and have like a week in with us. They'd have various different sessions with different teams, and then they would come to the groups that I was in at the end of the day, and we'd sort of do a check-in and, you know, answer any questions that they had and do various different activities with them. And then I'm also a health and wellbeing lead here at HS2, so that's just about actually facilitating any of the wellbeing workshops that we have, so when it's Mental Health Awareness Month and things like that. And so today I've had a very, very, you know, positive experience here at HS2. I've thoroughly enjoyed it, and I feel like I've been very well supported in my role. So a few ways that I feel like I've been supported is that there's definitely an ongoing commitment to personal and professional development here, which I feel like I've found that through the virtual work experience and all the different volunteering opportunities that I've had. I also mentioned underneath the opportunities and achievements that there's a training needs analysis that I briefly forgot to mention, but this is just the opportunity for us to, we have a catalogue essentially, and we can look through different learning courses. So I've actually just been on one this morning, which was about influencing people, which was about 3 hours long, and that was really, really beneficial for me, especially going on to my next placement in next week. So that came at the perfect time for me, and that's definitely helped my professional development in that area. We also have buddy and mentor schemes, much like the other graduate programs. That's been really beneficial. I've thoroughly enjoyed that. It's really nice to have someone outside of your direct team, outside of your graduate cohort and away from your line manager to have different discussions with, and also get guidance from a different area within the organisation. We also have frequent meetings with our talent team. They're very hands-on. They're very sort of attentive to us. They send us lots of different opportunities, whether that's sort of line management courses that we can go on to develop us for the future. They were various different ones, but bearing in mind the master's programme that I'm doing at the moment, that's not something that I was able to benefit from, but I know a few people have done that and they've found it really, really enjoyable. They also give us learning weeks every now and then, so we'll have a week out of our day job and we'll have various different speakers in and various different sessions that will help us in the different applications that we use. So say, for instance, if we wanted to learn more about Excel, we'd have someone come in and speak to us about that. And in the next few weeks, I think we've actually got a presentation learning session over the course of a few days, actually, rather than a week. So that's really beneficial, because I think that's a skill that we all really need to develop on, actually. And then finally, the study leave entitlement, that's just more personal to my own situation. So the degree that I'm doing part-time at the moment, that was self-funded by me. HS2 don't really have any involvement in that at all. However, they do recognise that it benefits me in my job role, and so they allow me 5 days a year. But when you think about the sort of the amount of work that you have to do on a master's programme, 5 days may not seem a lot, but when it's part-time, that's actually very manageable, because we only do one module every 7 weeks. So that's helped me massively. I tend to have 1 day off per module, and that's just for me to have any office hours with my lecturer and just get my coursework finalised and just get it, you know, over the deadline and get it all submitted. So overall, as I've said, a really, really positive and enjoyable experience for me so far. I'm almost at the end of it now. I joined in COVID, time's absolutely flown by. We're all starting to come back into the office now. And so I'm finally at the stage where we're meeting people face to face and starting to do things outside of work. So yeah, it's been really, really enjoyable, and it seems to only be getting better. So thank you for listening today, everyone.
So hi everyone, my name's Emily Nolan and I'm a Quality Health, Safety and Environment graduate with Network Rail, having graduated from Oxford Brookes University with a degree in Geography and Business and Management. I originally joined Network Rail in 2018. I was a year in industry, but I solely focused on the environmental and sustainable development team side of things, but I rejoined in 2020 as a graduate on a much broader 2-year scheme, so I've just finished my first year. The QHSE scheme allows graduates the opportunity to explore a series of placements within all 4 key areas, so quality, health, safety and environment, and also offers us the chance to specialise in 1 key area for our final year. So this means a year of enhancing our technical knowledge through undertaking courses, whether that be NEBOSH, IOSH, environmental manager courses, and it also gives us the opportunity to attend industry-wide events in our areas and gain relevant industry experience and knowledge that sets us up to move forward into the next stage of our career. So I initially chose to work within the rail industry, and in particular with Network Rail, because of their strong strategy to turn towards more sustainable business practices and their desire to be more green, as a lot of people say. I was conscious that the rail industry has previously been quite stereotyped as a male-dominant industry. But if anything, I use that to to fuel my drive, to become part of the company, and I haven't really looked back since. So my day-to-day activities vary significantly depending upon the placement that I'm in, which is great. It keeps things interesting. There's nothing becomes mundane. Your tasks are so varied that it's quite easy to bounce between them. So although my job is primarily office-based, there are continuous opportunities for me to get out and explore the entire network. So Wales, Scotland and England. So for instance, there's placements within our key stations that Network Rail own, such as Waterloo, Birmingham New Street and King's Cross. There's also our train operating companies that will host us for a week, so we get to know what their side of the track is like, and also just experience out on track as well, and to shadow industry leaders. All of that is kind of combined into your day-to-day activities, which is great. Beyond the graduate scheme, there are opportunities to get involved in a multitude of workshops, courses, projects. For example, I've been involved in a project called Micro Tyco Innovate, which is run by an external company but Network Rail funded. And it's a contest to do with sustainability and encouraging our organisation, so for me it was Network Rail, to contribute towards the United Nations Sustainable Development Goals. And through this contest almost, it allowed me the opportunity to get involved in presentations and things like that. I presented at a summit at the United Nations in Geneva and was also recognised as an entrepreneurial leader in sustainable development at the Houses of Parliament. And this was all because of an opportunity that was presented solely to year and industry and graduate students. So it really highlights the advantageous position that the graduate scheme can put you in with regards to exposure and opportunities that will benefit your career moving forward significantly. In terms of support, I have regular one-to-ones with my line manager, my placement managers, and also personal development plans as well that ensure my continuous improvement whilst on the scheme. HR are also heavily involved with the graduates to help support us in our search for our ideal jobs, as although the scheme is 2 years, they like to prepare you throughout to ensure that you're at your full potential moving forward. So they offer sessions such as mock interviews and presentation skill developments to just ensure that we are able to progress in our careers, and they're also they ensure that we're on the right route for us. If they don't think something's suited to us, they'll let us know. But again, they'll let us know if there are jobs that they've seen that they think are designed for us. So it's great to have that support. I believe the uptake for 2022 graduates is currently open for Network Rail. They do their application process fairly early in the year. So applications are open throughout October, and I think they close at the start of November, just for generic application, and then you'll be contacted normally by Christmas. If you've been successful in progressing to the next stage. It is quite a vigorous process. I think for me there was 7 stages to being actually selected for Network Rail, but again, it's all like, it wasn't as scary as I thought it'd be, doing assessment centres and things like that. It's all a very supported process. You didn't feel like you were going in blind or anything like that. So I believe the applications are currently open, and there's 10 schemes to choose from. So there's something for everyone, from engineers to project managers to QHSE. There's a whole selection. So for more information, I encourage you to look at the Network Rail website. I have linked it in this PowerPoint, but I don't know if the slides are getting sent out. But if not, it's just simply networkrail.co.uk/graduates. And there's a whole host of information on there and details about the onboarding process and things like that. But I think that covers everything from me. So if anyone has any questions, I'll answer them within the Q&A section if you just pop them in the chat.
Thank you very much. And if all of our graduates would like to join as well, and we have actually been collecting questions up during the presentation, I'll direct the questions to you, Mary, then you can field who you think might be best placed to answer it. I know, oh, Shannon, if you can get your camera there. I saw Emily's flick on and off. Right. You did mention just a few minutes ago about women in rail, and there were actually a couple of questions about what it's like being a female in the sector and how not to feel isolated, basically.
Okay. Brooke, would you be able to answer that?
Yeah, of course. So I've actually found it really welcoming as a woman in rail. I've found typically when you go out on site, it is quite rare that you see many women around. And so actually you're treated very, very well. People are very respectful. There doesn't appear to be any sort of negative attitude towards women. In fact, quite the contrary. We feel very much welcomed and supported out on site or in the office. And people have generally been very accommodating, very supportive. And particularly as a young woman in rail, quite often you find that certainly some of the older gentlemen who've been in the industry for a number of years are really happy and excited to be passing on some of that knowledge to somebody of a much younger age. I found it a really positive experience and I've really enjoyed it.
That's lovely. That's really, really nice to hear. Emily, do you have the same sort of experience or a different one?
I'd say very similar experience. Whenever I've been out on track, especially where it is a male-dominant sector of the rail industry, everyone is so kind and caring and considerate of the fact that we aren't exposed to the tracks and the danger of the track all the time. It's not as daunting as people think, being surrounded by a lot of men. Sometimes it makes you feel a little bit safer in some circumstances, to be honest. And yeah, I've had no negative experiences at all, whether that be in the office, out on track. Yeah, it's all been really positive.
I'm really pleased to hear that. We obviously know about HS2, and I'm sure that Shannon could probably talk a great deal about it, but we were asking about other projects, like other major projects that are possibly happening at the moment, and then what your graduates feel is the most exciting project they've worked on.
Tom, do you have any projects? Oh, I think you're on mute.
Microphone, Tom.
Apologies, that's a classic, isn't it? So currently I manage 4 live jobs. So I've been at Volker Rail for 15 or 16 months or so. And, you know, it's fantastic because I was given responsibility very early on, obviously with all of the support there. So I managed to commission 2 or 3 jobs now, which is fantastic and good to get under the belt. But, you know, I'd say, you know, the most exciting is probably not been the largest in terms of scale, but there was one where I was working with Network Rail and working with Transport for Greater Manchester, which is still a live job. We've got the commissioning coming up in November, all being well. And it was just the interface between the different stakeholders that I found very interesting. You know, you're having integration meetings. I've actually got one tomorrow in this office. So we're getting everyone together. And I think it's the collaboration that I personally find the most exciting. So, yeah, I'll say my answer to that. Good question, though.
Do we have... okay, we'll move on then. Interesting question, Mary. I think you might have to field this. Somebody was asking about, is the rail sector a safe sector as in job security? And they do mention specifically changes with contracts, etc.
Absolutely. Bear with me. I'm just going to have to go on mute one moment.
I can add from an HR perspective if that would be helpful.
If you start while Mary's getting herself sorted, that'd be great.
Yeah, definitely. So I think in terms of career longevity, rail is fantastic. It's certainly not an industry that we see going anywhere anytime soon. Certainly in terms of the government's green agenda, increasing not just heavy rail, but light rail as well. There's some major investment going on. I think we're actually the second biggest investment centre after the National Health Service. So there is a great deal of longevity for the industry itself. In terms of projects, the nature of a project-wise business is that projects do come to an end. But typically what you'll find, particularly within larger organisations, is that you move from project to project, or in circumstances where a project does come to an end, at that point, companies generally make every effort to move you onto another project, either within the vicinity, or if you would like to travel across the country, there can sometimes be opportunities in other areas, other locations that you can also get involved with. And similarly, there's loads of different companies to choose from and loads of different roles to choose from. And a lot of the skills that you find in the rail sector will be transferable between different types of job and different specialisms as well. So there is a lot of opportunity out there, and it's certainly not an industry that's going anywhere anytime soon.
That's really interesting. I'd like to ask each one of the graduates to ask in turn, because I know that this is something that's come up a couple of times in the questions as well, is was the rail sector and or the job that you're doing what you set out to do when you graduated? And if not, how did you end up getting to where you are? And if so, did you go for the specific company you're working for? So do you want to start, Tom? And I'm going clockwise the way I can see you on the screen.
Yeah, sure. I guess I didn't have a totally traditional way into the sector. So I applied for a placement with Volcarail's sister company, Volker Steven, back in 2018 when I was still at university. And I managed to stay in touch with the project director at the time. And basically after I finished and got my 2-1 in my case, I essentially contacted him and asked for an interview pretty much.
Brilliant.
So yeah, so I was really lucky in that instance. And then essentially there was an opportunity in rail. So no, the answer is I didn't think I was going to go into rail at all. I knew I wanted to get into project management, and I was told that there was a role available. Went for the interview, thankfully got it, and I've been in the rail industry for 15, 16 months, and I think as was mentioned earlier, I haven't really looked back since, and really enjoyed it.
Brilliant. And what about Emily? What's your story from leaving uni to where you are?
So I originally joined Network Rail as a year in industry. So between my second and final year of uni, I did a year in industry. So I came to Network Rail and worked solely for the Environment and Sustainable Development team. And to be honest, it wasn't what I planned at all. I wasn't sure I even wanted to do a year in industry because I just didn't know where I wanted to end up. So I wasn't sure if it was worth it for me. I originally applied for like project manager kind of roles within other organisations, and then Network Rail were the only company that seemed to offer a placement that fitted both the geography and the business side of my degree. So on a whim I applied, not really knowing what I was getting myself into, and I fell in love with my job really quickly. And I never looked back really. I got early acceptance onto the graduate scheme because of my year in industry, which in a way took the pressure off my final year of my degree because I knew I had a job waiting for me. And yeah, to be honest, didn't ever think I'd end up where I am, but I'm quite lucky in the sense that I fell in love with my job early. And I know this is where I'll probably be for like quite a long time. That longevity is there with rail, and especially with the sustainable development side of things, which is what I do. So I'm quite lucky in that sense.
I think it's really interesting to hear your stories, because I think there's a lot of graduates who may not immediately think of the rail sector as somewhere to go into, and to hear people speaking so positively about it, especially so many different pathways that you guys are doing, is great. Shannon, you've finally got back into the room and joined us. So I thought I'd quickly ask you to the question that we just asked. I don't know if you heard when you came in, is we've had a few people asking, did you set off on the rail, on the track to go into rail? And if not, how did you get to where you are from, leaving uni, I guess?
So rail was never anything that I'd considered literally ever. When I was on my university programme, my undergraduate degree, I did a year in industry. And when I did that, I worked in the NHS as an IT project manager. In the PMO office. And so after that, I thought maybe project management might be the route for me. And so when I started looking at graduate roles, I knew that I didn't want to move out of Birmingham. I wanted to day here and at home. So I started looking at, like, I wanted to go somewhere that was quite big really, and by my university at the back you've got the big Curzon Street, the HS2 site there, and I'd seen many different signposts there about all the works that were going on, and I literally just went on the website one day and I had a notification set up for the emails to come through when the applications were open. And so when I looked through it, I was looking for some sort of project management opening, I guess, and the one that I saw was the technical land and property graduate program. And at first, to be fair, I was put off by it because I thought, well, I don't know anything about land and I don't know anything about property, but just a little bit of advice actually would be, even if you see something that, like the job title like that, don't always just look at that, because it's about the skills and sort of like your own capabilities that they
We've
put
heard that all week from a lot of our speakers. Brilliant. Carry on.
Definitely. When I started looking through the job description and the sort of things I'd be doing, it was very much just like a box ticking exercise, because I thought, well, yeah, I've done that on placement, or yeah, I've shown these skills and I've developed them in other places. And so I applied for it, and to be honest, I didn't think I'd get anywhere with it, and here I am now. There was a lot of applicants at the time, so yeah, completely unexpected really. I just knew I wanted to do project management. I mean, even now I'm not really doing project management at the moment. It's sort of like business management that I've been involved in, now moving into change management. I will do one of the APM. I'll start the fundamentals, I think the first one is, once my degree's finished, just so I've got a professional qualification. And then if that's something I enjoy, then I'll continue through the different levels of the APM as well.
Excellent, thank you. Well, I'm sorry, Brooke, I'm not just ignoring you, but I'm going to jump into Mary. If you are you able to speak at the moment, Mary?
There may be some background noise a little bit.
I just thought it would be an opportunity, because we're getting nearing the end, and we haven't really had a little bit of a word about the national, the NSAR, that you might be able to say what role you can play for graduates.
So on the Roots into Rail website, what we do, we don't have any graduate placements ourselves, but we promote all the graduate schemes and apprenticeship schemes in the industry. So I'd recommend to go on the Roots into Rail website, and you can see all of the schemes available there. Brilliant.
Excellent. Okay, well, we are about 5 minutes through. We just got a couple more quick questions. We were being asked about overseas opportunities. Brooke, since I skipped you in the last one, I don't know about where you're working at Amy, or perhaps you've heard from your colleagues across the sector about overseas opportunities.
Yeah, absolutely. So I haven't personally been abroad, but I know of some of the colleagues on the graduate programme within Amy that have. So we've had some people working out in Australia, we've had some people in New York, and also in Dubai and in Spain as well. So there are some external opportunities, particularly around rail design. So we have a lot of our civil engineers or our structures engineers that are designing some of the work. Quite often you'll find that any companies such as Amy that have consultancy services integrated within the business will bid for some of those contracts internationally as well as nationally. Equally, my role is national, so I cover all of England, Wales and Scotland. But equally, depending on the organisation, it's worth exploring if you are applying for schemes and for programmes, seeing what contracts they're bidding for, what they're looking to win, and also seeing if they have any partnerships, or in some cases in larger organisations, sometimes they have parent companies. So one of the other graduates within my cohort did a stint in Spain with our parent company, and went across to do some development opportunities over there. So it depends very much on the organisation, but absolutely a question that's worth asking if that's something that you're keen to do.
And Tom, you work for Volca, presumably their head office is elsewhere. Is there any sort of movement with that, or are they primarily UK's? Microphone.
Sorry. So the Volca Vessels, head office. So Volca Vessels is a Dutch company. I work for Volca Rail under Volca Vessels UK. So we're primarily in the UK, but in terms of opportunities overseas, I personally haven't had anything to do with it yet, I guess. But I guess all or the vast majority of countries have railways, and each of those countries and companies within them will need, people like who are on this call, and people who want to get into the rail industry. But no, Volcarail is UK based anyway.
Yep, brilliant. I would just like to say, because we are running out of time, and I think that it's been absolutely fascinating. I have to say, I actually find, because with CareerMap, we've had quite a close relationship with Network Rail and with quite a few other rail organizations, and I'm always really impressed, like Women in Rail and the men on projects I've spoken to, that is kind of the biggest secret, I think, in the career world for graduates, because it's an amazing opportunity, but some of the misconceptions. And I'd like to thank you all for taking the time here to tell your stories and bust some of those myths and maybe get some people thinking about the different opportunities. I'd like to thank our audience for being patient. We had a little bit of tech issues, but it all got sorted. I would like to thank Mary Stewart for joining us on the hop, clearly out at our own event somewhere else. So it's been really great for you to join us in the end. But sadly, it is time that we start wrapping up. I'd like to remind the audience that this and all of the National Graduate Week live events are being recorded and will be available to watch again in about a week on www.nationalgraduateweek.co.uk, so you can watch again and share the session. I'd like to say thanks again, like I said, to Brooke. If you want to give a little wave there, Brooke, so we know where you are. Brooke, Emily, are you there? And Tom, and Shannon, and Mary. It's been great, and I hope everybody will be joining us for more exciting events later this week. But for now, it's goodbye from me. It's goodbye from our guests today, and I'm going to be turning the machine off now. So thank you very much for joining us.